Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel for another update of the Bitcoin dominance. So in today's video we're going to be looking at how the dominance is performing. We're going to be looking at how it's performing on the Japanese candlesticks, the Heikin-Ashi candlesticks, and talking about its momentum indicators, where it's likely to head next in the short term and the long term. With that being said, let's jump right into today's video. So before we talk about the technicals, I first of all want to acknowledge that we have been diverging from the norm in the past couple of weeks. What do I mean from this? Well, in the past 5 days, the BTC USD price has been moving to the upside, and also in the past 5 days, the Bitcoin dominance has also been moving up to the upside. But for the past couple of weeks, we have been seeing a correction in not only the Bitcoin price, but the Bitcoin dominance. Now, this is not normally how the dominance works. If you understand the Bitcoin dominance, then you will understand that the Bitcoin dominance is basically Bitcoin's percent that it takes up of the total crypto market cap. Another way of saying this is, at this moment in time, the dominance is at 44%. If you gather all of the money in the crypto ecosystem, 44% of that money is in Bitcoin. That's probably the easiest definition you could say of the dominance. But with that being said, we know that when the Bitcoin dominance is breaking down, this is normally, and it has historically always been, when we are in a bull run. Why does this make sense? Well, in a bull run, lots of new market participants come into the ecosystem. Altcoins, shitcoins are born left, right, center. Every single day a new shitcoin comes into the market. The market cap of these shitcoins and other altcoins go to the upside. People get more euphoric. They recognize, retail traders recognize that if they simply put $1,000 into a Dogecoin, then they could make millions. And respectively, if they put 1,000 in Bitcoin, they could maybe make 10,000, 100,000 or something like that. But nonetheless, this is why the Bitcoin dominance goes down, because more money flows into the altcoins and the total crypto ecosystem as opposed to Bitcoin. So you can see, when the Bitcoin bull run starts, Bitcoin dominance is up here at 97%. All these new altcoins come in and the Bitcoin dominance moves down to 35% before the dominance is done. As the Bitcoin dominance starts to move back up to the upside, this is when we break into a bear market. And this also makes sense because, as you can imagine, the price of Bitcoin drops 10, 20%. The price of altcoins drops 30, 40, 50. And even when we're looking at projects like Luna, some of them respectively drop 99.99%, 100%, while Bitcoin has a 75% correction. So I just wanted to say that before we do jump into the video, that this is not normally what the dominance does. And it is somewhat different to what we're used to seeing, witnessing the Bitcoin price move up for a couple of days, move up for a week, and seeing the dominance follow. However, we have been predicting this bounce for the dominance to be starting to play out for quite some period in time right now. A lot of people were getting worried. If I clear up my chart, a lot of people have been getting worried about the dominance over the past 3 weeks or so, seeing it drop to the downside, and they've been saying, this dump is way more brutal than this dump. The Bitcoin dominance is going down, altcoins are going to start outperforming, and we've been very adamant on this channel this is absolutely not the case, and this is not what I think is coming into fruition. You can actually see, if we do look at the RSI, during this most recent top, the dominance just went on a massive run to the upside, and it went all the way up to almost 70, coming up and topping out at 69. As you can imagine, the harder they run up, the harder they come back down and fall. However, if we extrapolate these trend lines, you've got a low, higher low, or higher high, sorry. You come back down, make that higher low, higher high. And once we've come back down, we've once again made a higher low, and we are starting to push up on the weekly time frame. We're up about 0.6% today, which is a massive move for the Bitcoin dominance. We were also talking about the similarities in the previous market structure. These are painted a lot more beautifully if you do head over to the Heikin-Ashi candlesticks. If you want to learn more about Heikin-Ashi candlesticks, be sure to head over to my channel, click on playlists, and you will find the educational series over on here. If you do scroll down, you'll find this video, how to Heikin-Ashi candlesticks. I'll explain about everything you need to know about Heikin-Ashi candlesticks over here. It's going to take a little bit too much time for this video, but the main reason why we use Heikin-Ashi candlesticks is because they open approximately, not exactly, approximately halfway through the previous candle body close, and because of that, it takes a lot more momentum to move them to the upside when they're in a downtrend, and it takes a lot more momentum to move them to the downside when they're in an uptrend. And subsequently, when you're looking at the traditional Japanese candlesticks, you can see basically green, red, green, red, green, red, green. And then once you switch over to the Heikin-Ashis, you've just got downtrend, red, uptrend green, downtrend red, uptrend green, downtrend red. And as you can see, at this moment in time, we haven't yet switched over to a green uptrend on the weekly time frame. However, if we are looking at the RSI, you can see that we are starting to bounce from the heart line. We bounce from approximately 49, and we are starting to head up for the dominance right now. So it is looking very, very nice. We basically went from well overextended up here at 73. Bear in mind the values when you are looking at the RSI on both the Heikonashis and the Japanese are slightly different. So take that with a grain of salt that there are two different ones for this, but they're more or less the same. And it doesn't matter necessarily the exact value. You can see RSI got massively overextended, came back down for a very, very healthy and well-needed correction. It found itself at the heart line, and now it's starting to move back up to the upside. I think we're gearing up and getting ready for that next move. And once again, a lot of people were saying this move that we were seeing now is nothing like what we saw back here. They were saying this is way too euphoric. The Bitcoin dominance is dumb. Altcoins are going to outperform forever. And, you know, Bitcoin is going to go down harder than altcoins. And we've been very adamant on this channel telling you this is absolutely not the case. You can see, you know, uptrend for a couple of months, downtrend for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. Uptrend for a couple of months, downtrend for so far 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. And bear in mind, even if we do head up on the weekly time frame for the next week and 2 days, because it's currently Friday, so we're going to have our candle body closed. In my opinion, this is definitely going to close at least 4 weeks in the red. But nonetheless, what we can potentially witness is the dominance starting to stagnate, take a break, cool down the RSI, find some support round about its previous resistance zones, subsequently around about 43.4%. Over on the Bitcoin dominance, if we switch over to the Japanese candlesticks, you can already see we're backtesting it and heading up very strongly, and we could have almost the same correction we had over here playing out over here. What are the other similarities that we were also talking about, saying why these are not so similar, why these are similar rather, and why we have been saying for months now that the dominance is just having a healthy correction time after time again. And I imagine we'll be saying the same in the next couple of months after the dominance breaks the roof over 48%, probably heads up to maybe 55, 56%, maybe not 55, 56. Yeah, I take that back. I imagine something like this could be playing out, moving up to 52, 53, having a brutal correction back down to the downside, and then having a brutal pump back to the upside. Bear in mind, a lot of people want to see the dominance just go up in a straight line, slowly, but surely. This is not how the dominance moves. If you look at the dominance, it moves in boom and bust cycles, even if it has a clear trend. For example, here you can see low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, and you can see it play out time over time again. We broke the trend a bit over here before heading up to the high. But what you will notice is we just move in boom and bust, boom, bust, boom, bust, boom, bust, boom, bust, boom, massive bust, massive boom, massive bust, massive boom. And once again, I don't need to keep on saying the same thing again. We just keep on having these massive boom and bust cycles, and it plays out the same almost every single time. So seeing us having this, 3-week correction, in my opinion, is really nothing too scary. Once again, a lot of people thought that the dominance was done, and once again, I've been saying this for a while now, and I will say it again, the dominance is not done in my opinion. It is only just getting started. So what are the other similarities we see with this trend before we do move over to the oscillators? Now, when we do draw our Fibonacci from our first low up to our high here, you can see, if you're new to the channel, first of all, warm welcome. My Fibonacci's are a tiny bit different from the norm. I like to highlight the range between the 0.5 fib and the 786, so we encompass the 0.5, 786, and the most important level, the 618, within this orange box here. This helps me see just by eyeballing if we do have a healthy pump and a healthy correction back to the orange box. As long as we stay above the orange box, down here, for example, then we are in a perfectly healthy uptrend still. And as you can see, the last time we did this, we momentarily came down below the 0.5 Fibonacci, almost made our way down to the 618. And in fact, if we do draw to the candle body close, you can see we actually never came anywhere near this orange box, which is interesting. And we did something very similar right here. So if we do draw our fib from our low to our high, it is slightly different. Once again, even if we draw candle body close, we did come into this orange box. However, we did not come down to the 786 Fibonacci. We actually came down, we almost reached the 786 Fibonacci, but we subsequently had a massive pump to the upside before coming down to this 43% level. And at this moment in time on the daily time frame, you can see we're having a very healthy move above the 618 fib. This looks absolutely beautiful to me. You can see a W pattern playing out on the charts right now, and I do think this is going to continue to carry us to the upside. Before we do wrap up this and head over to the oscillators, I really have to reiterate, you know, even if you're just drawing, if you're a fan of trend lines, which I'm not the biggest fan of, I like to look at a range of different indicators. I hate just relying on trend lines. I think you can draw them 1,000,001 different ways, and they're kind of they're just a little bit counterintuitive. Like, I really wouldn't focus too much on trend lines. But what I will say is, if we are connecting these two lines, we didn't even come back to this trend line. So this does just show you that the dominance is exceptionally strong right now. And even with this massive correction that happened a little bit quicker than this one, we still found ourselves making a massive higher low. And we are, once again, we basically back tested this previous resistance, and now we're having a big boom back to the upside. If we do look at what's going on with the RSI before we do head over to our oscillators and momentum indicators, you can see on the weekly time frame, it makes sense why we came down so fast, because on the RSI, we basically went from about 45 all the way up to 69. And if we do head over to the Heiken Archies, you can see this was actually a move from 40 up till 73. So it was definitely a big move for the Bitcoin dominance. After we came up to this massively overbought region, we had this correction, and obviously we came back down, reset to the heart line. We came down to about 48, and now we're moving back up. So once again, a lot of people thought this was a brutal correction that came out of nowhere. I think it was a very healthy and well needed retracement for Bitcoin to be able to take that next move back to the upside and subsequently break its previous high, local high should I say, up here at 48.5% without getting extremely overextended. Because of this healthy correction back down to our most important Fibonacci ranges and our trend line, we can now definitely say that we've got enough momentum to take out the roof at 48%. I definitely see something like this coming into fruition. We could come up to, you know, once again, I'm just eyeballing this, not an approximate zone, round about the 52 to 53% before we do have our next brutal correction back down, have another retest, and then once again gear up for that next move to the upside. I would really like to emphasize and let people know, do not look at the Bitcoin dominance on a daily time frame and expect it to just move up in a straight line little by little by little. You can see this is brutal, and we have boom and bust cycles all the time. So once again, do not be surprised if we have another boom cycle heading up on a massive rally, and then we have another massive bust, potentially back down to the 48.5 to retest it as support before the next leg up. On the weekly time frame, there is so much room for the RSI to move up. On the daily time frame, there is also so much room for the RSI to move up, and in fact we actually topped at 78 previously. So the fact that we're at 51 right now shows you that the Bitcoin dominance can head up on a massive rally. I'm not going to look at the 1 hourly and the 4 hourly, because in my opinion the Bitcoin dominance is something best analyzed on at least the daily time frame. I prefer looking at the weekly, but nonetheless we won't be looking at the 4 hourly. It's really not important in my opinion. Let's head over to the oscillators as we do wrap up the video for the Bitcoin dominance. So as you can see at this moment in time, the MACD is heading up very strongly. Now on the weekly time frame, it is slightly converging down to our moving average, which is this yellow line down here, and it is potential that we could have either a bounce from it and then head up once again, or because we've had to be honest, we've had an okay week over on the dominance, so I wouldn't be surprised if we do start to gear up for that next move to the upside. But nonetheless, if the green line stagnates for a little bit and if the yellow line crosses it, we might potentially see a very quick fake out over on the MACD, just like we saw here and just like we saw here, where we had this crossover in these histogram bars correlating to a bearish cross on the MACD, which as you can see on the weekly time frame lasted, you know, this one was 1 week, 2 weeks, and then in the third week we crossed it back bullish. Here this was 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks, on the 5 weeks, and then on the 6th week we crossed back bullish. And once again, I think this is definitely something to watch out for. The MACD is very strong in the higher time frames. You can see, even though we've been lollygagging to the side, the MACD is gaining momentum right now, and we are only sitting at the heart line, demonstrating that the MACD has a large amount of potential momentum to move back up to the upside. Looking at the squeeze one, This is a momentum indicator which takes, just like the Fibonacci candles, this takes a lot of momentum on the higher time frames like the weekly to break a downtrend back into an uptrend. So as you can see, I do not imagine that the MACD will be flipping bullish next week. I do imagine something like this will play out where we slowly round, and then I think the Bitcoin dominance is going to have enough momentum to take a massive leg to the upside. So on all time frames, daily time frame, you know, the MACD and the squeeze mom are both heading up very nicely. MACD's having a very lovely push up on the daily, and the squeeze mom on the daily time frame as well. Looks like it's getting ready to reset. Head over to that light green and take a massive leg up. I think the Bitcoin dominance is going to start massively outperforming in the next month or two. Count how many times I said massively, probably too many times. Probably should have thought of a different word, but nonetheless, you know what time it is. If you've watched my channel, if you're a seasoned veteran, you should know that when the Bitcoin dominance is going up, it is time for altcoins to get slaughtered. So if you're in altcoins right now, be super cautious. I really think there's going to be only a handful of alts in the next coming months that will even be able to break even, let alone outperform Bitcoin. So that's all I've got for you today, my friends. Hope you found some value in today's video. Once again, if you did want my opinion on what is going on in the short term, be sure to head over to my channel and look at the battle of divergences, and I'll also be providing a macro update after this video. As always, my friends, that is all I've got for the Bitcoin dominance for you today. I will be updating you the next time we have a major move, and as always, cowboy out. Peace.